exist. Conflicts in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, as well as regional crises, including Israel's genocidal military onslaught on Palestinians in Gaza, represent some of the darkest chapters of recent times. Even in our own region, the 92 hours Indo-Pakistan war had the potential to escalate to far more dangerous levels. All this is of a large malice in which states have increasingly resorted to the use of force to settle disputes, with disregard for international law and the purpose and the principles of the UN Charter. Multilateralism is under assault, and the institutions of global governance are often criticized for the acts of omission and commission of a few states driven by unilateralist impulses. Ladies and gentlemen, climate change remains an existential threat. Rising temperatures, extreme weather events, and accelerated glacial melting affect water resources, agriculture, and livelihoods worldwide. Emerging technologies, transnational terrorism, and hybrid warfare, including misinformation campaigns, continue to challenge the stability. The rise of extremist ideologies, political populism, democratic backsliding, and Islamophobia are negatively impacting the globe and causing upheavals in unprecedented ways. Major power competition is a defining feature of our times. Global geostrategic and geoeconomic landscape is being fundamentally reshaped. Military, technology, trade, tariff, and resource rivalries are intensifying. This extreme turbulence is taking place as the world moves towards a multipolar order with strategic autonomy among some major powers, the increasing role of middle powers, and the growing agencies of the global south. The process, however, has not yet reached the culmination point. In this evolving environment, Pakistan has a clear and consistent vision, one that seeks a just, equitable, and inclusive world order. We have opposed bloc politics and zero-sum approaches and consistently stressed the imperative of cooperation rather than confrontation. Pakistan has steadfastly championed UN-centered multilateralism based on international law, the UN Charter, and reformed multilateral institutions. We have underscored the indispensability of dialogue and diplomacy, of peaceful settlement of disputes, and of international cooperation and solidarity. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as an elected member of the UN Security Council for the term 2025-2026, Pakistan is engaged in vanguard efforts to promote international peace and security. Driven by this vision, during our presidency in July, I presided over Security Council sessions that adopted a landmark resolution after many years through consensus, and a presidential statement was adopted upholding multilateralism, respect for the Charter, and effective implementation of the Council resolutions. Ladies and gentlemen, South Asia is home to more than 25% of the global population. It faces poverty, inequality, and development challenges, including illiteracy, disease, malnutrition, income disparities, food insecurity, natural disasters, and the impacts of climate change. the region fares terribly low on most human development indices. South Asia also remains poorly integrated economically, with intra-regional trade hovering around 5%. The region is energy deficient and heavily dependent on oil and gas imports. Regional connectivity is woefully inadequate. SAARC, the only region-wide platform for regional economic cooperation, has largely remained inactive for over a decade. Ladies and gentlemen, we must also consider the pressing challenges of climate and food security in our region. South Asia's climate challenges are intensifying. We are just seeing what's happening in the South Asia right now. The region is home to over 25,000 glaciers in the Karakoram Himalaya range, whose accelerated melting threatens water security, agriculture, and livelihoods. Extreme weather events, including floods, droughts, and heat waves, affect millions and exacerbate food insecurity. Regional cooperation in water management, climate adaptation, and resilient agriculture practices is absolutely essential. Investment in renewable energy, climate-smart farming, and disaster preparedness will be critical for sustainable development and building resilient communities across the South Asia. Distinguished guests, the security landscape adds further complexity. In the context of hard security, the environment is even more complex. The region comprises 3 geographically contiguous nuclear powers with complicated relationships. Major regional states boast of some of the largest armed forces in the world. There is a continuous buildup of conventional and nuclear arms and regular induction of destabilizing weapons system. Strategic stability is delicate, among other things, by some dangerously ill-conceived war-fighting notions in the nuclearized environment. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, over the past 78 years, sustainable peace has eluded South Asia as it has faced wars, near-war situations, civil wars, instances of foreign military intervention, forcible and illegal occupation, transnational terrorism, extraterritorial killings and assassinations, ethnic strife, and political instability. There are escalating disputes over resource sharing, particularly on river waters, as exemplified by India's illegal and unilateral announcement on the Indus Water Treaty. The phenomena of over-securitization continues to grow, entailing weaponization of trade, water, sports, and cultural exchanges. There are pervasive interstate differences and some of the long-standing unresolved political disputes like Jammu and Kashmir continue to threaten the peace and stability in the region. There are weak or non-existent regional institutions, especially in the realm of conflict management and dispute resolution. Structured dialogue process between India and Pakistan remains stalled for over 11 years. Other South Asian states have had their share of the seesaw relationship with our neighbor India. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, burden of history, trust deficit, impulses of dominance and hegemony, domestic political and electoral calculations, rise of populism and hyper-nationalism, and an ideological inclination for territorial expansionism add multiple layers of complexity to the regional landscape. Above all, the region is becoming a locale for major power contestation. On one hand, the US led the Indo-Pacific construct strategy aimed at China's containment assigned the role of a net security provider to one state in the region, and on the other hand, China's Belt and Road Initiative and global development and global governance initiatives were opposed despite their clear focus on economic development and connectivity. The friction resulting from this dichotomous situation impacts the regional states' efforts for peace and development. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in May 2025, as I earlier mentioned, the region witnessed yet another India-Pakistan crisis. There are two nuclear-capable countries involved in a conflagration that would have gone into uncontrollable escalation. The US played a crucial role in brokering a timely ceasefire, while the hostilities ceased. An uneasy and fragile peace persists. Pakistan demonstrated both in resolve and capability to thwart aggression and reinforce deterrence. The concept of net security provider is buried. Sustainable peace in South Asia, however, requires more than maintaining strategic stability. Above all else, a just and lasting solution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute remains indispensable. Ladies and gentlemen, it is often said that the end of Cold War largely bypassed South Asia, leaving the region with few peace dividends. We, the South Asians, need to think really hard. Are we doomed to remain mired in confrontation and conflict, while others' regions progress and prosper? The answer should be a clear no. The cumulative challenges of regional security, economic fragility, and climate crisis are simply too grave to disregard. It should be also very clear that these challenges cannot be effectively tackled in an environment of political fragmentation and fractured regional architecture. There is indeed a need to reimagine South Asia and identify pathways to the peace, progress, and prosperity that our peoples so deeply yearn for and richly deserve. To begin with, we must overcome zero-sum mindsets, foster an environment of dialogue, peaceful coexistence, economic interdependence, and win-win cooperation. It is equally essential to build an edifice grounded firmly in the principles of open and inclusive regionalism. Short of that, I don't think there is any solution. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, creating a conducive environment and establishing the requisite regional architecture to address the security and development deficits is absolutely imperative. Artificial obstacles created in the ways of SAARC, which remains our first choice as an instrument of regional cooperation, must be removed and organization be enabled to start refunctioning. Earlier this year, Bangladesh, China, and Pakistan established a trilateral mechanism to foster mutual collaboration in areas of common interest. This concept can be expanded and replicated. As I have said before, there could be groups with variable geometry on issues from economy to technology to connectivity. Our own national development needs and regional priorities cannot, I repeat, our own national development needs and regional priorities cannot and should not be held hostage to anyone's rigidity. And you know where I'm referring to. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan envisions a South Asia where connectivity replaces divisions, economies grow in synergy, disputes are resolved peacefully in accordance with the international legitimacy, and where peace is maintained with dignity and honor. We remain ready to work with all willing partners to help South Asia realize its immense potential. I have no doubt that our region too shall see the day, inshallah, when we will match the levels of economic integration and growth rates of the regions that we see with so much envy today. Distinguished participants, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, finally, I wish you all the very productive and insightful discussions over the 2 days conclave. May your deliberation lay the intellectual foundations for the much needed reimagining of South Asia, which can be translated into practical policy recommendations. I once again thank the Chairman, Board of Governors, the Director General, whom perhaps maybe in a few weeks we will see discharging a global and international responsibility on behalf of Pakistan. So we wish him well in advance in case if we don't have any such event again. In the next few weeks, he'll be assuming his new responsibility from 1st of January. I'm keenly looking forward to find a better, if not better, at least an equally competent, his successor to run this institute the way it has been run since its inception. I thank you all and thanks for your patience. Thank you very much. Pakistan Zindabad.
नायब वज़ीर-ए-आज़म मोहम्मद इशाक़ डार इस्लामाबाद में सेमिनार से खिताब कर रहे थे। उन्होंने कहा जनूबी एशिया में सिक्योरिटी का मंजरनामा इंतहाई पेचीदा है। भारत ने एक तरफा तौर पर सिंध तास माहिदा मुअत्तल करने का ऐलान किया। देरीना मसला कश्मीर के हल न होने से खित्ते के अमन को ख़तरा लाहक है। जनूबी एशिया सबसे ज़्यादा आबादी वाला खित्ता है। उनका मज़ीद कहना था कि दुनिया में सुलगते तनाज़ात आलमी अमन के लिए ख़तरा हैं। ये थी ताज़ा तरीन।
दुरुस्त हर वक्त बर वक्त।